Eddie Cabrera back for the Marlins starting today, Sunday, for the Marlins off the 60-day IL. Very interested to see, does Eddie Cabrera stay with the Marlins after this deadline? Dane Myers deserves a bigger role. He's starting today against a righty. Dane Myers could be getting more playing time, and it's deserved. Tons to get into. This is Locked on Marlins.
You are Locked on Marlins, your daily podcast on the Miami Marlins.
Part of the Locked On Podcast Network, your team every day.
Greetings from England and welcome to Locked on Marlins, your daily Marlins pod. I'm your host, of course, Peter Pratt. Hit me up, Miami Marlins _UK. Happy Sunday, guys. Thanks for making Locked on Marlins your first listen of the day. This is your team every day. There is also a YouTube channel. Make sure you hit subscribe over on the YouTube channel. Join me in the comments after every single episode as well. Let me know your thoughts. Let me know your feelings. Is Eddie Cabrera going to still be a Marlin after the deadline? Rumors continue to circulate, even though Jesus Luzardo is on the IL, but they still continue to circulate around Jesus Luzardo. So tons to get into. Dane Myers equally with a huge knock in yesterday's game, a 2-run go-ahead blast from Dane. He's been looking great in the outfield. He's been looking great in his role. Short side platoon. Is it now time to take the training wheels off Dane Myers and get him more at-bats, more appearances, particularly against right-handed pitching? Tons to get into here, guys. We also saw the return this weekend as well of Brian Hoeing. The Marlins getting creative. So tons to get into here. But this show of Locked on Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. The right stay can make you a fan of any city, even your rivals. Check out Booking.com for your stay today. Right, guys, Eddie Cabrera finally returns. Right now, he starts. This is pre-game on Sunday. He is sitting at a 1-2 record with a 7.17 ERA. Not amazing for Eddie Cabrera. However, for me, this next month is going to be huge for Eddie Cabrera and for the Marlins. I am very intrigued to see what type of Eddie Cabrera we get back during his rehab stint down at AAA. It's been excellent from Eddie Cabrera. Tons of Ks, limited amounts of hits, limited amounts of walks. Let's see. This is in reality the perfect return against a White Sox team that has currently only won 26 games. The Marlins, yes, they've been putrid and they have won 31, but that just puts it into perspective how bad the White Sox have been. We saw the White Sox ace yesterday as well, Garrett Crochet. In reality, I mean, that fourth inning, I mean, man, oh man, that was Ivan Drago's season. He was almost up to 50 pitches in the inning. No one in the bullpen moving. White Sox. The White Sox did not care. They're just leaving him out there, I guess. Come rain or shine. But yeah, Crochet really labored yesterday. The Marlins putting together some great at-bats. They got the bases juiced, couldn't get the big knock, the big knock. But in reality, Dane Myers came through later in the game anyway. But Eddie Cabrera back. I'm extremely intrigued to see how things go with Eddie Cabrera. Reminder on where we're at here. It's fair to say that Skip Schumacher has definitely shown and spoken a degree of frustration around Eddie Cabrera. As fans, we feel the same, where any given day, any given inning, the variance with Eddie Cabrera is head-scratching. You just can't explain things. From one inning to the next, something seems to change, and once the spiral happens, the death spiral continues, and it's just walk season, and he just loses it. So Skip Schumacher definitely has had a frustrating relationship, I would say, with Edward Cabrera. It appears that the Marlins were looking to make a move centering around Edward Cabrera during the offseason. It felt like that deal was going to come with the Pirates, potentially. It felt like, a press release was almost, pre-written there. As we sit here right now, just interestingly on the Pirates, they are 4 games under 500, but they're absolutely not out of contention here in terms of a wild card spot specifically. They're 4 games behind. Just imagine if maybe the Pirates would have had Paul Skeens up earlier. I wonder if Edward Cabrera could have helped their rotation. I don't know. But in terms of the Marlins heading into the year, they got into deep talks around Edward Cabrera. A lot of names were talked, discussed, maybe agreed upon with the Pirates. Almost a press release was ready, seemingly. It didn't happen in the end for whatever reason. Similar maybe to the Jesus Luzardo situation where names were exchanged, a deal wasn't done. The Orioles pivot, don't get Corbin Burns. Pirates, do they still need a guy? I don't know. But that's what we've seen headed into the offseason. We then have seen Edward Cabrera struggle again this year. It's again from one inning to the next. You just don't know what you're going to get with this guy. The control, the command remains an issue. It's so erratic. There's such a lack of consistency with Edward Cabrera. However, he's been out hurt. He's had a really solid rehab. He's got probably 4 starts-ish. Haven't done the maths on that. 4 starts maybe before the deadline. What happens if Eddie Cabrera just goes into, Eddie Cabrera mode? Just striking out everyone. It's just the walks with Eddie, right? Just, can you limit the walks? Can you limit the walks? To be honest with you, before he went onto the IL, it was those, we started giving up just meatball home runs. I mean, one of the images of the 2024 campaign will be the hands on hips swivel from Eddie Cabrera, just like, man, what's going on? Like, that kind of sums up this season, to be honest with you. But we started to see that from Eddie as well. So this is a very interesting situation. But a guy with the type of upside that we all believe to be there, the level of control that exists with Eddie Cabrera. And so if someone is still bought into Eddie Cabrera specifically as a guy that can help now and multiple years in the future, then that's a trade asset. That's a guy that should return something of value. And the Marlins are struggling with things of value at this point, to be frank. The Jesus, I'm going to talk about Luzardo later in the show. But we know Tanner Scott. We know that's a no-brainer. They have to make that move, and we'll see what they can do. He's the best player available in many ways from Marlins' perspective. So we know that one. But broader than that, the question is like, who else can bring back anything of substance to kickstart this Marlins farm system? That's the question. And maybe at this point we have to ask, is the Marlins farm system a little bit underrated? The reason I say that, there's guys emerging out of this farm that we've written off. Feels like Joe Mack Attack. Maybe we'd written him off. Jacob Barrels. Maybe I'd written him off. I think everyone had written him off. I think Jacob Barrels was the reason. I've said this before on this show. I feel like that selection specifically was the one that got DJ Svihlik fired. The one that probably inevitably led to Kim Ang leaving the organization. And all of a sudden, Jacob Barrels, he's alive. He's alive in June. So maybe the farm system is being based on, the post-Kim era. Now you've got Gabe Kapler and all his guys in the mix. Next thing is there's guys ascending. There's guys performing. And these are offensive guys. There's former prospects that you would have expected to have been at this stage, but they've taken a bit of an up and down route thus far. I think Jacob Berry is like the biggest example. Let's see if it's real with Jacob Berry. Like how sustainable is this? But right now, he's on a tear. And, you'd considering, I mean, it's funny, like you get tweets resurfaced from the draft. Craig Mish's view on Jacob Berry, like this guy could be up here almost immediately. He's the guy. The Marlins need this guy. Like he's been picked, for this reason. Best hitter in the draft, best college bat, et cetera, et cetera. Man, it's never looked like that. But just imagine if they can unlock it and they get back to that stage where the Marlins have these guys that are delivering what they should have done. Joe Mack, the same. This is the thing. The Marlins farm system looks so bad because the hitting prospects within have all flamed. But it feels like many of them have done a JJ Bleday and they've turned the corner. How many corners did JJ Bleday turn? He finally turned the biggest of corners in Oakland, which is, again, another very intriguing situation. So I'm very interested to see how this deadline goes. I'm interested to see strategically, like which way Peter Bendix goes. We keep talking about these to the present, to the future deals. Like we're fully into the future now. And where do they go? Who's moved? Who brings back value? Who brings back guys that can be contributors? It's fair to say from the Arias deal specifically, not the kind of, I mean, we'll always talk about the Arias deal forevermore now. But unfortunately, all of the pieces back, seemingly, it's the early indications haven't been amazing. Clearly, Dylan Head out for the season. Martorella, I think, has become a huge bust subsequently. So, Usyk go, he's gone. Well, no, he's still in the organization, but he was never really a piece. So the Marlins' strategic approach at this deadline is one just to keep an eye on. How does Peter Bendix go about it? A lot of his assets are hurt. It's the pitchers. He looked to move Luzardo. He looked to move Cabrera. Cabrera's been erratic. Luzardo's hurt. Sandy's hurt. Yuri's hurt. Weathers is hurt. He looks behind the curve as well. Like, when do we see Weathers back? Is it going to be August, September? I don't know. So the Marlins, you're looking around and thinking, if this is the moment to kickstart your rebuild, the problem is you've got Tanner Scott and 2 months of him. You've got Tanner Scott and 2 months of him, and probably that's about it. Which is kind of crazy. Yes, there's value. I mean, Jackson Jr. is the best offensive contributor. Jesus Sanchez has started July like he wants to be available. He's on fire, which is great to see. And Dane Myers is on fire. We're going to talk about Dane straight after the ads now, because Dane has been in the Avi Garcia role. He's performed well, I would say. My sense was that Dane deserves a bigger opportunity. I almost said Dane Bowers then. I keep going to say Dane Bowers. But Dane Myers deserves a bigger role and a bigger opportunity. Lo and behold, he started yesterday against the lefty. He ended up hitting the go-ahead 2-home run against the righty. And Dane Myers is in there today on Sunday. Granted, on Sundays, things can change. But he's in there starting against the righty. Skip Schumacher's got a nice problem. He's got a good problem here where you've got a young player, limited amounts of big league experience, performed in the role that he's been asked to do, and he's earning the trust. Dane Myers is earning the trust. He is earning the opportunity. Often, these guys, they come up, it's sink or swim. A lot of the Marlins' history, from what we've seen, is they've sank. But Dane is swimming. He's swimming with the big boys. And to me now, considering where the Marlins are at, considering maybe a few of the other guys have been dinged up recently as well, Dane Myers has absolutely earned this opportunity to get more like everyday at-bats. Let's see him against some righties. Let's see what's there. I think there's plenty there with Dane Myers. I don't think it's going to be as wild a platoon split as someone like a Jesus Sanchez. But Dane's earned it. He deserves more time. I think he's going to get more time. He's in there today, which is encouraging. And Eddie Cabrera starting as well. Right, guys. Firstly, let's let you know about our good friends over at Booking.com. Yes, sir. And this episode of Locked on Marlins is brought to you by Booking.com. Booking.yeah. And with summer travel heating up, especially travel for baseball games, it's time to explore those U.S. cities you always secretly wanted to learn more about. Yes, we're talking about your rivals' cities. With hotels, bed and breakfast, vacation rentals, resorts, and so much more on Booking.com, you might just find your perfect stay even in your baseball rival's city. I'm a big fan of Booking.com. When I'm traveling to any city outside of Leeds, Booking.com is where I go, no doubt about it. Was all over it for the London series. So guys, if you're looking to make those trips out of town, out of state, get yourselves onto Booking.com, no doubt about it. So many choices across the US for your summer travel this MLB season. The right stay can make you a fan of any US city, even your rivals. Book today on Booking.com on the site or in the Booking.com app. This episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at eBay Motors. Yes, sir. Passion, drive, and patience. The formula for winning championships is also what keeps your ride or die alive. eBay Motors has everything you need to maintain your vehicle and level it up to peak performance. Superchargers, roof racks, exhaust kits, LED headlights, and more. Whether you're into speed, power, or style, eBay Motors has you covered. With over 122 million parts for your number one ride or die, you'll always find exactly what you're looking for. And with eBay Guaranteed Fit, your part is guaranteed to fit your ride every time or your money back. Because with eBay Motors, you're burning rubber, not cash. With all the parts you need at the prices you want, it's easy to make your car the MVP and bring home huge wins. To keep your ride or die alive at ebaymotors.com. Eligible items only. Exclusions apply. eBay Guaranteed Fit only available to U.S. customers. Welcome back to Locked On Marlins with me, Peter Pratt. Happy Sunday, guys. We're hitting a pre-game episode. Apologies, there was no Friday episode. Unfortunately, had some personal family matters to attend to. So I apologize, but you have a weekend episode. Maybe you'll listen to this on the Sunday. I hope you do. Hope you hit this pre-game. I hope Eddie Cabrera absolutely tears it up for the Fish. Just to finish on Eddie, by the way. I love Eddie Cabrera and his profile. I really do. And so I'm still a big Eddie fan. I think it's the hope. I think it's the one. I want him to be good. I hope he's good. For whatever reason, it hasn't quite played out that way yet. He's been in the Marlins organization for so long. Often what we see with guys that are brought in from outside of the organization, and then Mel Stottlemyre rubs, the magic potion over, sprinkles the magic dust, whatever it might be, and they turn into studs. I guess that's the thing that's nagging in the back of my mind around Eddie Cabrera is, if Mel Stottlemyre and this Marlins organization haven't been able to fully unlock Eddie Cabrera's potential in all of these years, then will they ever? And is this the best version of Eddie Cabrera? Like, truly? Is a 7 ERA the best version of Eddie? I think that's a bit unfair. I think maybe there's a few more innings this year, but in reality, this is stereotypical Edward Cabrera this year, which I think is the concern. Again, that's why it's a very interesting situation. Like, what value is there for Eddie? Who are you willing to give up to get 3 and a bit years of control of Eddie Cabrera, 4 years of control? At this stage, at the deadline, I don't know. But I must say that considering the lack of obvious arms available at the deadline, and I know, as the weeks tick on, clubs start to fall out of it, right? Like, it felt like a few weeks ago, we talked about it, right? From the NL perspective, everyone's in it, apart from the Rockies and the Marlins. Well, you start to look around now and you think, well, the Cubs are 8 games under 500. They're 6 games back of the wild card. What happens if the Cubs tread water again in July? Are they cooked? Like, are the Nats truly buying, for example? What about the Reds? Are they buying? What about the Pirates, the Giants? The Mets are back in the mix. Like, a lot of question marks over these teams. But in reality, you have to think they should be looking to add. That wild card spot keeps them in the mix. They should look to add. And Eddie Cabrera could be the perfect guy. Could be the perfect guy that you add in a change of scenery, a change of organization, maybe, tons of control. If it doesn't quite work out as a starter for whatever reason, I'm very interested. Like, it hasn't worked out this year because the Marlins' injuries in the rotation have been so vast. Well, the whole rotation is on the IL. But I would have been very intrigued to have seen what would Eddie Cabrera have been like out of the pen. We spoke about it a lot last year when there was some, issues with Eddie Cabrera. There's always issues. But I feel like at one point last year, there was like a strong feeling of, is Eddie Cabrera actually only ever going to be maybe a leverage reliever? Let's remember last year, the Marlins bullpen was lefty heavy. They had no righty arms that they could trust, no righty arms that could come and overpower guys and get big time outs. And at that point, that's why the fit was made, the suggestion was made. What does Edward Cabrera look like coming out of the pen? I feel like we asked the same questions around Jose Urena at one point. I mean, I think Cabrera's profile The upside profile is different to Ureña's. I think the mentality is different as well, by the way. I think, Ureña, true bulldog, like just mentally strong bulldog. Cabrera, I don't see that. I don't see that at all from Eddie Cabrera at all. Like, I mean, I don't know the guy clearly. Haven't heard anyone specifically say that he isn't, but it just seems to me like there's just a mental blocker that appears in games for him. I never see that from Ureña. Never. But going back to it, Eddie Cabrera out the pen. That's the point here is if you give up something, you try Cabrera in your rotation. Can he be a difference maker the rest of the way? Maybe. If the worst comes to the worst with Cabrera, if you have to trade some players to go and acquire him, I think you've probably got an upside reliever as well that could do some damage in the 7th, 8th, 9th, whatever it might be. We've seen how effective that Tanner Scott can be, for example, where there's still a walks issue in some ways with Tanner Scott. And, what the same may be true with Eddie Cabrera's profile, but we've seen how effective that Tanner Scott can be. Since he slotted into that closer spot, once AJ Puck got hurt last year, he's never looked back. Never looked back. There's been the odd blip, but fundamentally, Tanner Scott has been one of the best relievers in the game for some time. But is his profile that dissimilar to Edward Cabrera? I get it. Like, there probably is quite a bit of variance, but Tanner Scott does have control issues at times. He does have issues with walks. He's then got the stuff to get out of it. And I believe that Eddie Cabrera probably does too. This is why it's very interesting. Like, from a Marlins perspective, they're going to lose Tanner Scott now. You're going to lose Tanner Scott. You've got no obvious closer. We don't know who's going to be remaining in the pen. I don't think the Marlins right now have the luxury, if they do keep Edward Cabrera beyond the deadline, to transition him to the pen. They need the innings. However, if things were different and they had some options, I think particularly in this type of season where there's it's the 9th inning, there's always pressure in the 9th. But frankly, the Marlins record means that there's no real pressure. It would have been very interesting to have seen what Edward Cabrera could do out of the bullpen in the 9th inning. It could be the right-handed version of Tanner Scott, but one that's cost-controlled for many years. I don't know. I mean, I wouldn't completely rule that out. The way things have gone this year, we've already seen that Skip is being creative with innings now. Brian Hoeing straight back off the IL, starting games. Rodri Munoz then piggybacking. So Skip's trying everything. The whole playbook is open at this point. We're going to see how Edward Cabrera goes in his start. Knowing him, it will be 6 innings, 15 Ks, and everyone will be like, oh my days, Cabrera's amazing. But if things start to go a little bit iffy with him, and he's still with the club, I wouldn't rule out the Marlins trying Edward Cabrera out of the pen, particularly once Tanner Scott has been moved. Let's hit the final ads, and then I wanted to pick up on Jesus Luzardo, some more rumors on Jesus Luzardo, and Craig Mish and his comments around Xavier Edwards and his everyday shortstop role. Before we do that, firstly, it's time to let you know about our good friends over at Tax Network USA. Yes, sir. And here on Locked On Marlins, we pride ourselves on getting you the latest news for your team, whether it's the offseason, the draft, spring training, or the playoffs. It's year-round. You know what else is year-round? Collection season. Just because tax season is over doesn't mean the IRS will stop coming after you for unfiled taxes. The IRS can garnish your wages, levy your bank accounts, and even seize your property. Don't let the IRS target you. Let the licensed professionals and tax experts at Tax Network USA go to bat for you. With over 14 years of experience and an A+ rating by the Better Business Bureau, Tax Network USA has saved their clients over $1 billion in tax debt. Whether you owe taxes, have complicated matters that require tax planning, or finally hit that parlay this season and need help correctly filing, call 1-800-549-1000 or visit tnusa.com/lockedon. And be sure to mention Locked On Marlins at checkout, and you'll receive a $250 discount off their services. All right, guys. And this episode is also brought to you by our good friends over at Ibotta. Yes, sir. Let's get the graphics pumped. There we go. Nailed it. Yes, sir. Right. Oh, there we go. Wrong image. Right, guys. Sandals, sunscreen, snacks for the kids. What do these have in common? You're probably buying a ton again this summer, but don't stress about the cost. Use Ibotta and get cash back on all your purchases when you stock up on your summer essentials. Ibotta is a free app and lets you earn cash back every time you shop. Earn on hundreds of items from groceries to beauty supplies, even toys. So you can make sure you're beating inflation no matter what you're purchasing. The average Ibotta user earns $256 per year. That could cover the cost of an entire shopping trip, the flight you've been eyeing, or the fancy dinner you've been craving. Other apps give you points that don't amount to much. With Ibotta, you earn cash back that you can withdraw to your bank account, PayPal, or gift cards. Simply add offers in the app, upload your receipt, and voila, the money is yours. You can save on over 2,400 brands and shop at over 1,000 retailers, including your favorite grocery stores, Lowe's, Macy's, Sephora, Best Buy, and more. It's time you joined over 50 million users who use Ibotta to earn cash back every time they shop. So right now, Ibotta is offering our listeners $5 just for trying Ibotta by using the code LOCKEDONMLB when you register. Just go to the App Store or Google Play Store and download the free Ibotta app to start earning cash back. Reminder, the code is LOCKEDONMLB. Ibotta is IBOTTA in the Google Play or App Store, and use that code LOCKEDONMLB for $5 just for trying the app. All right, guys, final segment here on Sunday. We're going to get this one out pre-game. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen of the day. Jesus Luzardo. Trade rumors are recirculating. I believe Bob Nightingale talking about it, that teams are making inquiries on Jesus Luzardo, even though he's currently on the IL, even though he may miss, the rest of July, potentially, maybe slightly longer. Teams are still interested in Jesus Luzardo. It's not been his best campaign, Jesus Luzardo, no doubt. But with years of control beyond the current year, maybe this is a good time for a team. Maybe teams are looking to buy low on Jesus Luzardo. I think that's probably what's driving this situation, where he's hurt, feeling that the Marlins are looking still to move him, which I think to be true, and maybe trying to get an injury discount on Luzardo. Maybe he can help later in the season. Maybe he can help in a postseason run. Maybe he can then help next year as well. Spoke about a similar kind of situation with Sandy Alcantara, really, that his rehab was intensifying. He was looking to, potentially be available at the back end of the year. Again, could teams be looking to make some moves? I don't believe the Marlins will do that with Sandy. I think that they'll most likely get him back to Sandy-like performance, rebuild his value, rebuild the confidence. And I think the same to be true of Luzardo. While teams may be interested at this point, I don't think the Marlins are going to be in the need to offer a discount solely, to move Luzardo now. There's no need for him to be moved now, frankly. You still have time. You still have next offseason. I think they'll probably treat it that way. But I think it's interesting that rumors continue to circulate. There'll be a lot of rumors flying around in July. It's going to be a very interesting period, no doubt. One final news and nugget, I guess, to finish up here. Craig Mish speaking about Xavier Edwards, calling it out on Twitter to say that he felt that this situation where he's now been plumbed into an everyday shortstop role was something that would have been more akin and maybe better suited to spring training. Felt like a little bit unfair on the player specifically to plumb him in as the everyday shortstop. I think I'm relatively aligned. I mean, for those that listened last week to the show around Xavier Edwards, I don't think there's an everyday shortstop there defensively. I just don't think the defense profiles in that way. He can fake it there maybe, but I think, listen, guys, we all watched Miguel Rojas for long enough. We know what elite or top level looks like. And I think we all know in our heart of hearts that Xavier Edwards is unlikely to ever get to that level. I don't think anyone in the organization probably can get to that level. I like Xavier Edwards' stick, no doubt. I think it plays. I think it's going to play pretty well at second base, to be honest with you. And I can see Xavier Edwards absolutely being the everyday second baseman. I get where Craig's coming from. I like the idea, though, from the Marlins, but it does feel a touch maybe unfair on Xavier. But it's an opportunity. It's an opportunity for him. And he's got an opportunity now to be pretty much the everyday shortstop for the Marlins for the next 3 months. With that comes a learning curve. With that comes pressure. And the Marlins will then have a good body of work to make a decision on the future, which is what it's all about, which is why it goes back as well to Dane Myers. Now's the time to get a look at Dane Myers. Let's see him. Let's see what he's like against right-handed pitching. For him to be a true big league contributor, we're going to need Dane Myers to be able to be effective against right-handed pitching, no doubt. We've seen him against lefties. It's fine. It's good. We've seen him in the outfield. It's very good. In right field, very good, no doubt. But for me at this point, I'm completely happy. Like, it feels like there's definitely a logjam of talent, more so in the outfield with Jazz, De La Cruz, Jesus Sanchez, Dane Myers. For me, and they've been cycling around. As soon as they're facing Jake Burgers at first, Bell DHing, they're playing around with it. For me at this point, let's just leave Burger at third for now, Bell at first, DH De La Cruz, and then you've got the outfield spot sorted. That would be my approach. Guys, we're out of time. Thanks for making Locked On Marlins your first listen. Hope the Marlins can win the series against the White Sox. Very interested to see how Edward Cabrera returns. Dane Myers gets the start. Can he continue on his hot streak? Well, we'll have a look. Equally, Jesus Sanchez is absolutely on a tear thus far in July in particular. So let's see if Jesus Sanchez can get it rolling as well. The Marlins take the series. I look forward to seeing you tomorrow.